Hi, welcome back to another video, and someone asked me to post the wheel settings that I'm using, and I did say that if somebody asked I would. Obviously this is for Forza Motorsport 2023. Now my wheel is a Thrustmaster T300, so that's what these settings are being used for. That's effectively what I'm going for here. They obviously will be adaptable to other wheels, but you are going to have to play around with them. But as a base starting point, I think they're pretty good. Now, I will caveat this with, in my review video, which I will link to in this, hopefully it should be up in one of the corners, I did say that these improve the Forza Motorsport force feedback and give you what is, in my view, a pretty good feeling from the wheel. It's accurate enough, it does what it's supposed to do when it's supposed to, but do not expect these to transform Forza Motorsport into some kind of cutting edge title from the point of view of force feedback. That's never going to happen. But what I personally do believe is that these, certainly for my T300, move it on massively from where the force feedback was back in Forza Motorsport 7, which in my personal view was absolutely horrendous. It really was. Okay, so without any further ado, let's head into settings and take a look at the force feedback settings for Forza Motorsport for a Thrustmaster T300. Okay, so here we are. We're in the settings menu and we're in advanced input. Now, the top load of settings, which in all honesty I am just going to move past, are basically your dead zones and force feedback inversion. So I'm not really going to talk through any of these because most of this is fairly straightforward. It's whether you want a dead zone on the inside or outside of anything. So I'm basically just going to run through all of these and get down to the stuff that's actually interesting. Now, we can fit most of the interesting stuff on a single page. Okay, so let's start from the top and work down, and these are pretty much what I found here and why I've played around with them. Now, I have looked around a lot on the internet. There's going to be influences from a variety of sources here, but I have also myself played around with a number of these settings to see what works for me. So, vibration scale, this sets the vibration intensity. Does note that when True Force is enabled, so True Force steering wheels, which I believe is Logitech, this will be ignored. But for my T300, I lower this very slightly down to 40. And that seems to work quite well for me. The force feedback scale, I have this set to 85. Now, in theory, you could set everything else as I've got it and then use this force feedback scale to basically vary the strength depending on how strong your wheel is in terms of newton meters of torque it gives out. That's in theory. I can't guarantee that will work, but it's probably worth it as a starting point. Now, I leave steering self-alignment set at 100, exactly where it is. So this is the amount of steering used to automatically correct the direction of travel when no steering input is detected. So this is based on a tyre's desire to basically get straight again, due to the deformation of the rubber, and it seems to be perfectly good at the default 100 here. Mechanical trail scale. Now, I'm not going to try and explain this simply, but the end point there, raising this tends to give a smoother force, but with less fidelity. This is one of the areas of compromise that, to a degree, I found you have to get into with Forza Motorsport, because I've whacked this all the way up to 150, and I found that's really needed to give you a good, smooth input and force feedback and the whole shebang, basically. Does it give you slightly less fidelity? A little bit, but it's a it's an acceptable trade-off in my view, to get it working in a accurate enough way. I've tried it the other way around and I really didn't like it and really didn't think that it worked particularly well. Moving then down to pneumatic trail scale. Again, reducing this down affects the dynamic effects that you get from tyre deformation, so this is quite important, and 100 I actually think is absolutely fine with this. If you lower this too much, you will get rid of a lot of that deformation feel, and particularly when you hit understeer and the point of the contact patch deforming and the tyre trying to realign itself, you actually want that in there. So again, I'll leave this one at 100 for that reason. I whack up the road feel scale and pop this up to 140. So this is higher frequency stuff coming from the road surface and bumps, and this to a degree helps offset the loss you get from increasing the mechanical trail scale. Sorry. So I find these two work quite well together. 140 is where I set it. Again, you can have a play around with that. Load sensitivity, bang in the middle, 50. Leave this one again. This is load fluctuations. Lower values produce a smoother aligning torque, but provide less feel for tyre load changes. I find this works absolutely fine as it is. Now, a couple of big ones here. Wheel dampening scale. This sets the resistance to the movement of your steering wheel. So as you pump this up, it gives you a heavier feeling, and lower values give you a lighter feeling with no resistance. Now, if I remember correctly, the default of this is 50, and it's far too heavy. It really is. And this is one of the most common complaints about out-of-the-box Forza force feedback is it's so heavy that it just washes everything else away. And putting this right the way down to 20, you still get a good load. You really do get a good load as you're applying steering force as the tyres are working. And 20 for me is more than enough here. It really is. I see absolutely no need for this to be significantly higher than this at all. Your mileage may vary, but for me, 20 is where it needs to be. Centre spring scale. I set this to 0. I see absolutely no reason not to. It does say that larger values give you a stronger centering force, while lower values provide a lighter centering force. What I've found is if you set this to anything other than 0, the centering force you get off of the wheel is just overpowering. So I found that setting this to 0 is really important. Now, it does warn you that lowering this value too much may cause steering oscillation. I have never found that to be the case. So this is quite a dramatic change, but I find it works incredibly well, and would strongly recommend it. We've then got dynamic damper behaviour. And this is how much the damper decreases to preserve detail when tyres are slipping. And I find, again, you need to set this down to quite a low value to give you a really constant damper behaviour in this. So, if anything, these three to me are the key ones in getting the weighting and steering resistance absolutely nailed. And I know they're extreme values, but I found they work really well, and would strongly recommend them. We've then got steering sensitivity. Leave this set to 50. You want good steering linearity. Don't play around with this one, okay? This works extremely well. As it stands at 50. I didn't see any need to play around with it. And steering linearity, again, leave this set to 50. I found if you play around with any of these type of controls on the vast majority of titles, and Forza Motorsport is no exception here, steering just starts acting really weird and really unnaturally, and just no. And my input button's gone, so that's good, isn't it? There we go. Let's use the keyboard. And then the final one, use gamepad steering filters. Absolutely turn this off for a T300. Now, it does say this applies to steering filters best suited for gamepads and steering devices with lower fidelity. I don't know what steering wheels they're referring to with this, but being perfectly honest, you absolutely should not need to leave this on if you've got a wheel with force feedback. I would strongly recommend not doing so. Okay, so those are my force feedback settings for Forza Motorsport 2023 using a Thrustmaster T300 wheel. Hopefully, if you give them a go, you find them useful. If you do, please do let me know down in the comments below. It would be great to hear. As I say, please do keep in mind that they are not going to lead to a title with genre leading force feedback, but I do personally find that they improve significantly off of the base settings that exist within the title. Quite what possessed Turn 10 to use the default settings they did, I'm not sure, but these I find make the game far more enjoyable and get the force feedback a lot closer to being accurate than it is with the default settings. So I'm happy with them. Hopefully you will either be good with them or you'll find them a very useful starting point. Anyway, that's all for this video. If you have enjoyed it or found it useful, please do give it a thumbs up. If you do want to see more content like this, please do subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to be notified when new content gets uploaded. Thanks very much for watching, everyone. Take care. Bye.